Sorry for the little delay. We were having some technical problems here. Jerry, you want to lead us off with the agenda?
Oh, sure. Hi, buddy. Yeah, as Wayne said, we're having a little technical problems with sharing PowerPoint, and we're going to let Wayne do his thing first, so I can do a little research on how to share my PowerPoint without sharing my notes, which we're having some problems. But welcome everybody to our meeting, and glad you could make it today. We posted an agenda for you there, and don't really have any announcements. If you would like, you could introduce yourselves in the chat, and if you have anything you want to say, go ahead and put it in there. I know some of you have been here before, so but if there's some new people, go ahead and do that. So we'll start off the presentations today with probate records, and Wayne will be doing that. And after that, I'll do a little dipping your toe in Irish research. And then we can have a general genealogy discussion about what we just presented, or anything you would like to do. And then if you have any suggestions for topics for next meeting, you can put it in the chat. And we're planning our next meeting for Saturday, September 23rd at 11 a.m. And it will be probably Zoom only, but we'll let you know if we do want to do a physical meeting and a Zoom meeting. It will be at the Brooks Memorial Library in Brattleboro, but we'll let you know that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share here, and then turn it over to Wayne.
All right. So share. All right. Let me just get this started. All right. I was interested in doing something on probate records just because I've been spending a lot of time trying to find probate records. And I thought it might be useful if other people haven't done much with them. Or if you have, maybe if you could let me kind of get through the presentation, and then if you have other things that you might want to comment on or question, we should have a little time for that as well. So anyway, I mean, it certainly helps if you have all the vital records on a person, you know, when they were born, when they died, particularly. It makes it in a, you know, if you have a time and a place, it makes it much easier, of course, to try to locate the record. Anyway, some of the things that make it useful to do this, especially if you find a will as part of the probate record, it makes it easy to identify family members and identify the relationships between the people in the family. A lot of times it also talks about if there's property involved, you might be able to, it might tell you where the property is. And from there you could do research on land records. And sometimes you uncover some family secrets. I wonder if everybody could just mute, please. I hear some noise.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so what I want to start with is just some examples of things I've found that were very helpful to me. And then from there, I'll go into how to go about finding these records, what records are available online, where you might find them. So I spent a lot of time doing early colonial research in New England. In this case, the person I was looking for was actually was in Charlestown, Massachusetts. And I was particularly thrilled to find this record, a printed transcript of the research. I mean, I guess there's some pros and cons of this. This particular book was published by the New England Historical and Genealogical Society in Boston. And, you know, so they have some really well-experienced genealogists that I imagine were involved in putting this together. The downside, of course, is I mean, the original papers are also still available, and more those are available online. So you could double check what somebody has transcribed and published with an actual original document. They're not easy to read though. So like I said, I was pretty thrilled to find this book and that it included my ninth great grandfather. So anyway, his whole will is here. Some of the things that popped out for me when I was reading through it, first of all, that it was his third wife. Her name was Mary. So that was kind of nice to kind of confirm who she was. She was probably literate, since he named a boy in there named Benjamin Thompson and wanted her to bring him up in learning so as to fit him for the university in case his parents pleased to leave him with her. So I don't know the rest of the story of that, but obviously he was concerned about education. It's kind of a question about whether he could read and write himself. This will is signed with just his mark, not an actual signature. So I don't, it's hard to tell. His his three living sons were named in the will: Samuel, George, and Nathaniel. The other son was Thomas, who predeceased him. Interestingly, it didn't include anything of that son's children, but I think his widow remarried, so that may explain that. There's just some interesting little bits of trivia. He gives his son Nathaniel 6 working oxen, but specified that those Buck and Spark, obviously must have been his favorite ox team, were not to be included. So anyway, I just found it kind of interesting that I could actually find the name of my ninth great grandfather's oxen. A grandson was named, Joseph Blanchard, and it was also identified in there that he was his son George's child. So that was a nice piece, to confirm there. He must have been, as I suppose many people in the Massachusetts colony were heavily involved in the church. He gives the Reverend Mr. Matthews a cow, and he also gives another cow to the church in Malden, in Massachusetts. Obviously, there's some tension in the family here. He makes his sons George and Nathaniel joint executors of the will, but he also appointed his friends Edward Collins and Joseph Hills as overseers. I haven't researched it further than that, but again, it's sometimes helpful to find out who the friends and neighbors were. This family ends up in court a lot, so the fact that he appointed friends also makes me wonder, whether he realized ahead of time that his sons were maybe not going to, that they would argue over the will, I guess, to put it in a best way. Anyway, so a lot of little tidbits are found. In these papers, there's a will, and probate record usually requires an inventory. Just some interesting things. You know, again, you get a flavor of the person's life through that. I was, because he didn't sign his name, I was questioning whether he, you know, could read and write, but he did have, as in the inventory, there were 3 old Bibles, a pair of spectacles, and a New Covenant and Psalm book. So it gives a hint that he may have been able to read, or perhaps it was his wife that was able to read. There was also a law book there, and as I said, they were in court a lot, so I guess that kind of explains why you might have a law book in the house. The household items just kind of give you a nice flavor for what it was like as a farmer in the 1600s. He owned a wide variety of animals, and he raised kind of a pretty good variety of crops there: wheat, rye, barley, peas, corn, flax. It just gives you a sense of what life was like then. Land. I did not spend as much time with that, but obviously his sons the 2 sons had to divide the land, and so there's information about where that was. Oop, kind of. Okay, so that was one 9th great grandfather. This one is a grandson of him. This will is interesting in a number of ways. He also had 3 wives. He lists specific instructions for his son Josiah about how he is to take care of her. And I'm guessing he may have specified that because this obviously it would be a stepmother for Josiah. And it was also specified that she was have free use of specific rooms in the house. In other words, he was trying to provide for her. The interesting thing to me was, though, he gave various specific instructions about what needed to be provided. So it kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what it would take for a person to live on a farm in 1750. And as you can see there, he wanted her to have a cow, a horse, some sheep's wool, some flax, 8 quarts of good firewood, some beer, and also a whole bunch of provisions. And he specified how much of each one was to be provided annually. So, you know, again, if you want to get into life of a ancestor in the very early, in the early 1700s, the will just kind of specified everything you needed. I also was kind of struck by a little bit of US history. Those early wills were often signed by the date, and then it would list what year in the queen or king's reign that year was. In this case, Thomas Blanchard on the left, it was during the reign of King George II. So I was pretty struck when I got to Josiah and found that he also gave a date, but he was careful to specify that it was in the 6th year of American independence. So there's, it was that, I mean, that really struck me because all the previous wills, obviously, they considered themselves British subjects and would refer to the reigning king. Anyway, just, you know, again, little bits to kind of pull things together about their lives. The other thing that these probate papers helped with, and this one was a great find. This ancestor would be my great-great-grandfather. He had 10 children, and so he listed all of them were to receive 1/10 of his estate. He split everything evenly, except he had several of his children died before he did. So it lists their children and gives them a share of what would have gone to their parent. This was particularly interesting to me because of down here where it says the 6 children of Walter Blanchard. For the longest time, I thought he only had 4. And then by reading this, I realized, there were 2 more children that I didn't even know about. So it was a great find. This one happened to be one I could not find online. I found this in the New Hampshire State Archives in Concord. But again, when it's all laid out for you like that, it's a great find to put together a family. Now, some of the probate courts would also deal with guardianship. So in the previous slide about what this Walter Blanchard, he was hit by a car in 1919. So he had 4 children by his first wife, who died in 1912, and then 2 more children with his second wife. And the youngest child was born just 8 days before he died. So his second wife, Hazel here, she was only 28. She was a widow with a newborn baby and had 5 other children, the oldest of whom was only 15. So some of these children went to live with aunts and uncles, and that was a formal procedure. They went to probate court, and just as an example here, one of the children went to his brother, Will Blanchard, and his wife, Clarissa, and they became the guardians of one of his sons named Roland. And I was able to also confirm that, he died in 1919, and Roland was living with his aunt and uncle in the 1920 census. So again, it's a way, the probate gives you a way to establish kind of the legal relationship, and then you can find other records, as I did there with the census record. And just another example on guardianship. In this case, in 1790, this Lydia Blanchard gains guardianship over Isaac, Molly, and Samuel. They were all children of Josiah Blanchard. And it always strikes me that nowhere in there does it mention that she is actually their mother. It had to, there was a formal procedure. The children had to be cared for, and this going to probate court made it official that she could become their guardian. Now, when there is no will as part of the probate record, something is still done with the estate. So in this case, I won't go into all the details here, but finding this record, it allows you to see that his wife was to get half of the estate, his personal estate, and then the rest was divided into 5 equal parts that went to other relatives, a brother, a sister, and so on. So even if it's always great if you go in the probate court, if you can see an actual will. But even without that, a lot of times it's still extremely helpful to find where the property, or the estate was, how it was divided, and who received that their share. So anyway, all of this to help kind of fill out a little more information than you find with just the vital statistics of a birth and a marriage and a death. All right, so a little bit, that was to just kind of give you an idea of the kinds of things you can find. The now in terms there's several places you can go to find to see what's available online. So I'm going to run through some of the things you can do to try to find these records. So FamilySearch, FamilySearch, I'm sure many of you are aware, is a very extensive database. They go around literally just filming millions, I guess, at this stage of the game, millions of archives and courthouses and so on. So there's a lot of information on the website. So one of the places to get started on this to find probate records is to go look for the catalog in the search menu. So on the main screen, if you pop up search, instead of looking for specific records, you come down and look for the catalog. By default, it wants you to search by place, and you certainly can do that. But you can also search by title or subject, or there are several other ways in there. The important thing to remember is that when you're searching the catalog, you're searching for a collection. You're looking for a specific database on the website, and you're not searching for a person. So for example, in this search, we're looking for United States, Vermont probate records. When you put that in, you get this list. So it's listing probate records, and it does break it out by county. And there are records for Windham County, which is where we are. And so when you pop that open under Windham, you can see there's a probate court in the Westminster district and in the Marlborough district. These are also searchable. So you can go to, in the Westminster district, if you click on that, this screen is a little intimidating when you first run into it, if you haven't done it before, especially. And even if you have, all of a sudden you're looking at a whole bunch of thumbnails of, in this case, 472 pieces of paper, or images of those pieces of paper. It's always good to try to just check the beginning of the file to see if there's a handwritten index. And then it's pretty much a little trial and error to try to get to the right page. So just as an example of that, in this, on image 9, I was looking in the B's and just arbitrarily picked this one. So this Nathaniel Babbitt, it says his probate record is on page 50. And when you find your way to page 50, it comes up with the will of this Nathaniel Babbitt of Londonderry, Vermont. Finding page 50 again is a little bit of trial and error. You kind of have to do a little guesswork as to where on the pages, the page full of thumbnails, where page 50 is. Shifting gears a little bit, American Ancestors has an extensive collection of New England probate records, especially Massachusetts records. It's a similar procedure. You want to go to search on their website. And then in this case, you can search by name. So you can enter a name and then choose the specific database that you want, which is here on the search page itself. Or if you notice over on the right-hand side there, there is a category called court, land, and probate records, and sometimes it helps to search that way. In this case, this example, I was looking for Essex County. I have a lot of ancestors that lived in Essex County. And so out of curiosity, I just wanted to try to find all the Blanchard probate files in this Essex County database. And there are quite a few records there, you know, over 58,000 probate records, and each record, you know, would have a number of pages. Okay. So anyway, a little bit easier to search because you can search by name, and you can narrow it down. If you know what county they where they lived, you know, the chances are good that if the probate record is available, you know, you'll find it there. So just as an example, this one was for Samuel Blanchard. It tells you that it's 5 pages long. He died. It tells you that the case type was a testate probate record, which means there should be a will. And from there, you can actually open up the actual documents. So this is the will of Samuel Blanchard, died in 1707 in Andover, Massachusetts. All right. Switching to Ancestry. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. Ancestry is available in both the libraries in Brattleboro and in Rockingham. You can look under the collections for probate records, land records, and so on. In this case, again, it helps to search by using the card catalog. On the main menu, choose search. In the drop-down menu, you choose card catalog. And then in the keyword, this is not the greatest search feature of Ancestry. You can know that that a database is there, and if you don't type things in close enough to what the actual title is, you may not get it. But in this case, so looking for Vermont, U.S. wills and probate, there is this category, and I'm pretty sure that works for every state. You type in the name of the state, comma, U.S., comma, wills and probate. I think you should be able to find whatever they have on any given state. Ancestry does have the advantage that once you're in the database itself, so this is, you know, once we've clicked into the database, you can search by name, and just a reminder, if you're living in Vermont, the Vermont residents can search this for free. If you don't have an Ancestry account, it's a little cumbersome. You have to go to basically it's the Vermont Archives under myvermont.gov state portal. You set up a free account there, and then once you're logged in, it allows you to search Ancestry files for vital records. So, and then obviously you need to kind of know that in order to figure out where you might find the probate records as well. So anyway, so here's an example I found on Ancestry. This Jonathan Blanchard lived right here in Rockingham. And so this document is an approval of a petition by his widow to sell his estate to pay his debts. So again, another source to look for probate records. I kind of focus on just New England states here. Some of them have their own online portals or websites as part of their state archives or state libraries. So my example here is Connecticut State Library has Connecticut Probate Records database. Oops, sorry about that. The Maine Probate Records. When I looked at that, it was just one county. University of New Hampshire had a scholars. They have a lot of, the University of New Hampshire Library has a lot of information on early probate records. The thing I've discovered, though, is that a lot of times the archives are also using either FamilySearch or Ancestry to get their records online. And like I said, FamilySearch particularly will go around and bring teams of people, I guess, that go and film, digitize. Well, they used to make microfilm, but now they've digitized their records. So a lot of times there are agreements, I assume, between these archives and FamilySearch and Ancestry as well. I was trying to put this together. I was looking for, what was available in some of these. So Connecticut, for example, has this index to probate estates. But then there again, it's accessible. That file is accessible at a family history center or an affiliate library. Again, both Brooks Library in Brattleboro and the Rockingham Library are affiliate libraries, so you should be able to see them at the library. Maine was a similar situation. You can go to you go to a website on Maine, but a lot of times it'll refer you back to like the one on the bottom here, Maine, US wills and probate records on Ancestry. So it's sometimes it might be worth it to check, to check directly on the website of state archives and so forth. But the only advantage really would be it might take you directly to the file that you need to find on one of these other websites. A little complicated, but you can either search them directly or try to see go and see what's available in state libraries, for example. On this example on New Hampshire, it was the University of New Hampshire Probate Records. Again, this is a published series of probate records. Again, available at this point at the University of New Hampshire Library. And finally, just to sort of wrap it up, a reminder that not everything is necessarily online. You might still have to go to an archive or find out where the court records might have been stored. As an example here, for a brief period of time, Bellows Falls had its own probate court, and those records are only available at the Bellows Falls Historical Society. Anyway, just a reminder that if you don't find it online, it might well mean it's just not digitized, and you'd still have to you'd have to make a trip somewhere to find what you're looking for. All right, let me. I just kind of wraps it up for me. Let me stop the sharing here. All right. When I'm doing that presentation, I can't actually see the chat, so I don't know if there were anybody that I confused people, or anybody have comments or questions, things I could add.
Hi, I'm Sharon Fenna, and I thought it was a great presentation. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Jerry,
it was
you're
great.
muted if you.
It was great, Wayne. This is Kim Cannon. I don't know if I'm on screen anywhere here, but that was wonderful. It was some good insights into how to look for some information in Massachusetts on certain ancestors. Thank you.
Yeah, Massachusetts, definitely you would find.
Yeah.
If you're looking for early ancestors.
Yes.
That American ancestors are great.
Thank you very
Michael,
much.
Yeah, I found it very, very helpful, Wayne. I have a question just about the probate process itself. I'm not sure, not ever having gone through it. When does that kick in? When any adult dies, or when does probate actually happen?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess there could be some delays, but I think it usually is fairly close to when a person passed away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would information about their estate has to go, you know, goes to the probate court. And like I said, whether they have a will or not, there's usually some kind of somebody is designated as an executor. Either that's done within the will, or it's done by the court. They appoint somebody. Mm-hmm. And then an inventory is taken of their estate. All of, you know, in the examples I showed you there, you know, it's literally a list of everything they owned. It's especially in these early cases.
Okay, second question. How often, some of what you showed was not the original record, but a transcription of it. How often does that happen versus you actually find your only source sometimes is just the original hard to read record?
Well, if you're fortunate to have ancestors who were in Massachusetts in the 1600s, early 1700s, you know, there's a good chance you might find something printed, because a lot of research has been done on those folks. Or even, well, like the New Hampshire one that I just briefly went by there, you know, that was, I believe that was a project that the state funded in order to do, well, basically for genealogy purposes. I mean, otherwise there's no reason for those early probate records to be published, other than people are doing what I'm doing and researching early ancestors. So it's hard to judge how often. I mean, it depends on, I've had the most luck, like I said, though, with Massachusetts and New Hampshire, but that's the area that I was particularly searching in as well. It's just because people, the New England Historical and Genealogical Society started about 1845, and so it's, you know, since that time, that society has been doing a lot of research on their earliest ancestors. So I think that's why those kind of projects come up, where they transcribed them and published them. These days, though, I mean, they've actually gone back and digitized the actual original records. Although, frankly, they're not easy to read. You know, it takes some. It was a lot more fun to find somebody that had actually done all that work and I could read it than it is to go through the originals.
Wayne, I have a couple questions about particularly women ancestors. In some of your records, there was more than one instance where the son of the deceased was directed to provide for the decedent's wife in a certain way. Was that just cultural, or was there a legal impediment to women being executors at that point. There might have been, I just don't know.
Well,
maybe you just don't know.
It is a little weird. The widow, there's a thing called the widow's thirds. In other words, she would inherit. She would not automatically inherit an entire estate. Typically you would see, at least most of the ones that I've seen, a lot of the estate goes to the usually the sons. I rarely would find a daughter. Daughters are usually mentioned in wills and so forth, but usually the bulk of the estate would go to one of the sons.
Ah, yeah.
And then they would have to, that in that example where, I mean, Josiah, I'm not sure if he made out better or worse. His brother only got like $1. He got the estate, but he also had to provide, all of the support. I mean, I was thinking, I mean, I still heat with wood. I was thinking about 8 cords of wood, just, every year for
that's a lot of wood
for his mother,
Yep.
plus raising, all of the other provisions. I mean, it came with living in the 1700s, but, but yeah, no, women really did not, they didn't have, they really didn't have that many rights, in other words, they would, usually in wills, you would see that they were specified certain rooms in the house that they were theirs to use, but they didn't inherit the whole house. Sometimes it even specified items, within the house that were hers, that would be hers. I don't know, a quilt or, bed or what, those kinds of things. Sometimes that was specified. So it was different times for sure. They wouldn't automatically inherit. They wouldn't automatically become guardians of their own children. And part of that was to provide support. And I really don't have a good understanding of the legal rights there, but the marriage was really a contract, and I guess you still consider it a contract. But in those days, the wife had few rights, but she was required to be provided for by her husband. In fact, I've looked at early divorce papers, and that's one of the reasons for the divorce was that, the guy skipped out and she wasn't being provided for. So there's, it's a whole, I mean, certainly a whole different time. I don't necessarily have the most understanding of it, but I was always struck by that that a wife, it had to be specifically listed, in the probate court for her rights to be, for her portion of things to be declared hers.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that first case that I presented, I mean, she went back to court several more times to force her stepson, to cough up what was hers.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Interesting presentation.
Jerry, I think we got to shift gears.
Okay. You're a hard act to follow.
Move into Ireland here.
Move to Ireland, yes. Okay, I think I got this figured out now, so I can share. I'm going to just stop my video too, just to not be a distraction for me. And let's go to, hold on here. Okay. Okay, how's that coming across?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, good. Okay, you don't see any extra stuff either, so that's the good.
We're good.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a disclaimer. I do mainly Italian research, and especially that in the western states, Colorado, Wyoming. So I'm a little new to the Irish research, and so this is going to be what I've been able to do myself in the last couple of weeks of researching how to do Irish research. So I imagine there are many of you today who probably have a greater knowledge than I have in here, but you know, this is supposed to be a dip your toe in Irish genealogy research. So I hope you can glean something from that as well. And I'll probably really mess up some pronunciations of Irish terms as well. So hope you give me some latitude there. So at any rate, let's go on. So what are we going to cover today? So we have just starting your research. How do you get going with your research? We're going to talk about some of the Irish research challenges that one may face. We'll look at the Ireland political and religious units, the counties, the townlands, and parishes that you really have to become familiar with if you're going to do any of this kind of work. And then we'll go into the general genealogical databases such as FamilySearch, Ancestry, and Find My Past, which has great digitized Irish record collections. And we'll look at some of the selected genealogical databases in Ireland, irishgenealogy.ie, the National Archives of Ireland, and Griffiths Evaluation. And there are many, many more, believe me. And I'll try to create a little resource list with links that I'll post, we'll post in our Google Share folder and send that around when it's ready. And then we'll do a little case study. I'll try to use some of these databases to show you a real life example and see how we do with that. Okay, so let's look at the Irish research challenges first. So in June 30th, 1922, there was an explosion and fire at the Public Records Office in Dublin, and many, many records were destroyed. Primarily, most of the pre-1901 census records, but also there were probate records, the Church of Ireland, the smaller non-Catholic church in Ireland. Many of those records were destroyed, marriage bonds, and you know, other things. So that was a major event in the history. So so what we will do here is sort of just how to get started. So after 1901, you want to start with searching the census, okay? Because we know that those records are available. They weren't destroyed in the fire. Between 1864 and 1901, you'll want to look at civil records, if you know where Irish ancestor came from. And then before 1864, you can use land records and parish records. So so what you want to do, first of all, is discover what you can about your Irish ancestor in the US. And that's using our census information or any of the genealogical records, especially immigration records, that would help you go back across the pond. Census facts, vital records, immigration records. And then you'll want to familiarize yourself about the county, the townland, or the parish in Ireland. And it's very essential that you know where your ancestor was born or lived in Ireland and the time period, because otherwise, without that, you're not really going to find anything, prior to 1901 for sure. And then you want to come up with a research question so you know what you're searching for. And that could be as simple as who was my great-great-grandmother, maternal or paternal. So you can do that. You know, that could be just your research question you want to start off with. So with that, let's look at some of the areas that we'll be dealing with. So this is from the FamilySearch Wiki, Ireland Genealogy, which I highly recommend. You start with that wiki on FamilySearch.org because it's an amazing description of the genealogical records that you'll find. So here's a little map of Ireland with the traditional and post-partition provinces. And there are currently 26 counties in the Republic of Ireland, and these are a list of them. And then you'll have the 6 districts in Northern Ireland, or their counties post 1922. Then we have the Irish townlands, and this is an interesting subdivision. It's the smallest subdivision of a geographical division of land. And this particular one is from the townlands of the Thurles civil parish in the county of Tipperary. And so these are used, and they're usually about 100 to 500 acres in size, and they're very old. They predate the Norman invasion. And within every townland, there are fields, and the fields also have names. So according to the Townland Index at this website, townlands.ie, there are 61,119 townlands in Ireland right now. So incredible small units of information. Here we have the civil parishes, and they're comprised of a collection of townlands. And I'm using this example of the county Louth or Luth, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but these are the civil parishes within that county. And then we'll have the ecclesiastical parishes. So as I mentioned, civil records registration started in 1864. So a good place to find pre-64 vital records are in the church records. So these church registers are available for most births, deaths, and marriages. And the parish priest normally owns these bound volumes, but many of them have been digitized, and we'll look at that. The Church of Ireland, which is actually the oldest church, which goes back centuries, is they have records starting in 1634, but it's smaller than the Roman Catholic Church, and the majority of records actually exist between 1770 and 1820, and you will find Church of Ireland parish records valuable, especially in the period up to 1820. The Roman Catholic parishes, they use different boundaries, names from the civil parishes, but these are quite extensive too. And then you have nonconformist Quakers and Presbyterians. And the Presbyterians, through the Presbyterian Historical Society, you'll find some of those records. Okay, so let's look, just take a survey of these general genealogical databases. So again, we have the Ireland Genealogy Database and FamilySearch, and there'll be links from that wiki to what online genealogical records, FamilySearch, and other databases would have. So that's really a good place to start because it's free. Ancestry has a collection of Ireland birth, marriage, and death records. And it's free if you use your library's subscription, but if not, you need to subscribe, and this is one of their, they do have promotions from time to time. So you could use it free for 14 days if you don't have a subscription, and you could check out things. One of the best is Find My Past, which is a real British, UK-oriented database. It is also a fee-based database, but as you can see, they have 267 record sets that relate to Ireland. So this is a really incredible, rich resource. And they actually do have some daily subscriptions. So you could go in and do a lot of research in a day. And I can't remember what the subscription price is, but it's I think around $10 or something. But again, I would just suggest start to use the free ones that you have access to, and especially we will be able to use the Irish databases, which are for the most part free. Now, I'm just going to look at 3 different ones today because it would take us forever to really even go beyond these 3 databases, and there are so many more. You'll have the johngrenham.com, which is a portal for surnames, place names, blogs, overview of records, county listings, interactive maps. That's another great portal for doing research. I'll put that on the resource list. There's the public records of Northern Ireland called PRONI, and that has to do with Northern Ireland records. National Library of Ireland, this website contains images from their collection of Catholic Parish Register microfilm, and those contain the records of baptism and marriages from the majority of Catholic parishes. So those are other ones, but we're going to focus on irishgenealogy.ie. These records have the birth register records from 1864 to 1922, marriage register 1845 to 47, and death register 1871 to 72. It's free, and you can access that just by going to that website. The National Archives of Ireland is a really good place to access those census records. They have the 1901, 1911, and then any of the census survival records from 1821 to 51. Those are fragments. There are the tithe allotment books, which are basically tax records, early tax records, land records for Ireland, and some of these other soldiers' wills and calendar of wills. But the really important one are the Census of Ireland records. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Griffiths evaluation, which is the first full-scale valuation of property in Ireland, which started in 1830, but the main parts were published between 1840 and 1847 and 64. And it's one of the most important surviving 19th century genealogical sources because they basically documented everybody who was living on the land during that time. So let's do a little case study here. We can start with trying to find this fellow here, this Lawrence Markey and his wife Essie, who immigrated from Ireland in the early 1850s. That's all we know. So we could go to the database of New York, US arriving passenger and crew lists, which is on both on FamilySearch and on Ancestry, and we can do a search there. So just so we're not, because there's so many variations the way names are spelled and so forth. So I just took his first name and put a question mark. You can do this with Ancestry. A question mark will replace a letter, and an asterisk will be a truncation of the term. And I could have probably used Ireland here, but I decided not to do it that way in this particular search. So what we come up with a list of Lawrence Martin, Lawrence Markey, Lawrence, didn't find Laurence apparently, but here's some in the arrival dates and in the early 50s. So any of these markings would probably be a good candidate. But we're going to look at these two here because it looks like this fellow here was born in 1803, so he was around 50, from Dublin. He came over on the wave. This fellow here was born in 1841. He was only 12 years old, came in on the wave as well. So perhaps they're a family, part of the family. So we can take a look at the manifest, which is this image right here. And here we go. So this is the actual manifest. And it was from Dublin, Ireland, and it's called The Wave, the name of the ship. And I just took parts of this out, but under the names you have Lawrence Markey, who is 50, a male. He's a farmer, and he comes from Ireland. Any of these records before 1892 will only have the country. After 1892, these manifests will have the city or perhaps county that they came from. Here you go. Here's the wife's name, Essie. So we're looking at the right person here. She was 40, so she was 10 years younger. And then you have kids. You got Jeremy, 16, fellow by the name of Pat, or perhaps, yes, it is a male. And then you have the younger Lawrence, who came up in the search. He's only 12. And then you have a daughter by the name of Mary. So we're pretty sure that this is the family that we were searching for. And so we're going to try to find this Lawrence Markey in irishgenealogy.ie. So I put this all together here, so I hope it's not too confusing. But when you come to this site, you'll find these headings along the top. So since we're before 1864, we're going to look in the church records, and you'll be presented with a screen like this. So you can put in the first name, last name, or just the last name, location if you know it, and a year range. So I just put in the name of Lawrence Markey, and you come up with a filter by results, and we have 2 baptismal records in Dublin in the 1800s. And when you click on that, you get what looks to be the fellow we're looking for, Lawrence Markey, Laurence, on January 17th, 1840. And then you have a baptism of John Markey, perhaps related, but we're not sure. And so let's go on to the next slide. And when we do that, we find, by clicking on the top link here, we find that it's going to be a baptism of probably the younger Lawrence Markey, because you have the father here, and you have the mother, Esther Quinn, who probably is Essie. So we're going to make a wild assumption here, but it's probably Essie Quinn, Essie Markey. And then you have 2 sponsors, William Murphy and Margaret Kenny, which could become valuable, especially if they may be related to Lawrence or Esther. And then we can look at the church register on this page. And it's going to be a little hard for you to see because it's not a very good, because you're looking at a copy of but this is the actual church register here. And it's the register of the baptisms. And right here, you can see Lawrence Markey and the parents and the names of the sponsors. So, without going here, you would have been able to get this information from the transcription, but it's always good to come here anyway. And it was on January 17th when the baptism took place. And you might take a look at this list because it's all these, families who had children who were baptized on that day. So that might come in handy for you. What else we can find with this record is the church, because we see here that the parish and church is St. Nicholas in Dublin. And that was, it came up in the earlier search. And in this database, you can go to a section which has the churches. And so we know it's Dublin Roman Catholic, and we click on that. And what you'll find is a list of those Catholic churches. And then at the bottom, we see a St. Nicholas without on Francis Street. So that will help us locate the church. And the National Library of Ireland has those registers as well, and where the church is located, so you can actually find the location of the church on Francis Street. And then apparently this is a fairly famous church, and the full name of it is Church of St. Nicholas of Myra without, Roman Catholic, and it's on Francis Street. This is the Wikipedia piece on it. And Dublin, it's still in use today, and it's a place of worship that goes back to the 12th century. So, and it will give you the actual location. So at any rate, that was just something to show you how you can use the Irish Genealogy.ie database to find a pre-1864 thing. So at any rate, let's go on and look at Griffith's evaluation. Now, Griffith's evaluation, or as it's called, the primary valuation, is a much used and valuable source. As I said, it was published between 1847 and 64, and provides a county by county record of taxable land and buildings for the period. Now, this came about, it was commissioned by the English government, and Richard Griffith, who was a geologist, was appointed and started his work in the 1830s. And he surveyed, and his team surveyed 32 counties, and they measured every field, analyzed the soil, noted every occupant on the field, and described the structures that were there. Although he noted only males and not the families, but women were noted if they were owners of the land. And the Gaelic place names were replaced by Anglicization of place names. So at any rate, this is how this came about. So in this particular, sorry for the small images, but we did a search here under Markey Lawrence, and I didn't add any, I didn't really know this particular Lawrence Markey. It's not going to be the same guy, I don't believe, that we found in the church records. So, but I just want to illustrate how this database works. Once you put in a value, I use both Lawrence and Markey, comes up with a hit list, and it tells you the county where this person is located, the parish, and then you can look at details using the original page. You can also look at a map view, and apparently this allows you to upload your own content. I'm not really sure what this means, but you can enhance the information in this database by your own. So what we have here is once you click on the details for the original page, you'll get a table, and it shows you the valuation of these tenements in the parish, and it's in the Ardabalan townland. And if you go down this list, you'll see a number of marquees, but we're interested in this Lawrence marquee here. And if you read across, it will give you information regarding the description of this property. He owns, so the uppercase letters denote fields, the lowercase denote buildings. So this Lawrence marquee owns 4 fields, 5, 7, 9, A through C, and 10. And he is actually leasing it from the owner, which is Sir John S. Robinson. So Sir John S. Robinson owns all these. What you'll find here is has land, and it will tell you how much it is. So it's 4 acres, 1 rood, which is a rod, and 31 purchase. And a purchase is smaller than a rod. So these are all kind of archaic terms now. But 4 acres, 7 acres, 2 roods, 3 acres, and under 9B is where a structure has been denoted by a lowercase a. And so the total tax assessment for this is £24 10 shillings on field number 9. And you can actually find this by looking at the map view. And apparently not all of these are accurate, but it does give you some idea of where these fields are located. And I was not able to find some of them, so I might have just glossed over it, but it looks like 9 is here, 7A and 7, 6 are here apparently. But anyway, these are where you would find those pieces of property. Okay, so the next thing we can look at are the census records, and those would be found in the National Archives of Ireland, but there are other places too. But I like using this just to familiarize myself with what they have. And so if you go to censusnationalarchives.ie, you'll get to their homepage, and you can click on their genealogy link, which will bring you to most of their genealogical resources. And so they have much of the information on the 1901, 1911 censuses. And it will give you a search box such as this, so you can research that. And what's really interesting is that the census images are actually filled out by the people who they were enumerating. The enumerator would leave them with a form, and then the people in the household would fill out the form, and that's what's been digitized. So it's really too bad that many of those census records from the 19th century were destroyed, because this is really incredible information. These would be the actual information filled out by your ancestors. And so there's several forms here. You get the household return, numerator's abstract, and the house and building return, and out offices and farm stittings return. So all of these are available by the for these census records. And you can also browse by place as well, so you can get an idea of what families were living there. So again, I did it for the marquee, and who comes up in 1911, but these marquises who were living in the same townland as the Lawrence marquis, who had apparently left in 1853, but this gives you what'll happen when you bring up the search, and then you can then look at who's in residence of house number 3. So this gives you this family unit here. And then if you want to look at the actual returns, you can click on these links, and that will give you the actual returns, which I didn't copy. And we could actually look at that maybe later. But so that's it for my part, and I'll stop the chat here.
So,
okay.
Jerry, there was a question here from
Okay.
Sharon. Sharon, are you still online with us? Can you unmute, maybe ask a question?
Sorry, I have a puppy to tend to, so.
Yeah, first things priorities.
Yeah, oh, definitely. But I've been listening. Yes, I have followed a whole lot of what you've said, and even finally went to Ireland because I was able to trace my ever so great grandfather back to arriving here, actually arriving in Canada in 1827. And then I went back to where he came from, which was Doon Parish, and found not necessarily his birth records, but I found the ship that he came over on, because this particular ship left Limerick exactly the same day he would have had to leave. And I found a whole lot of church records that pointed to the fact he was there. And the allotments, the tithe allotments of 1826 and all of that, they have a whole lot of much older information that showed lands where he had been a tenant, or he'd even owned a couple of things. But that's as far as I can go, because even the little church there in Doon Parish, the Father Ryan was wonderful, but the beginning records that they have is 1824. So
you can't go any further.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to begin to look. I went over to Tipperary and rummaged around in their archives, and nothing. So I guess you just get to a point, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been there, that's really, the gold standard. Have you? I think my AirPods are dying. Hold on a second.
Sure.
I'm going to search. Let's see.
You're mute.
We don't hear you, Jerry.
No.
How about now?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I guess I've been using them too much and they didn't charge. So, one of the great services I found while doing some research, and actually before, called Ireland Reaching Out. Do you know that?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's wonderful. They're volunteers who will help people, and they're very knowledgeable, and they have a website and an email list. So
okay,
I'll put it in the chat real quick, because it's such a great
okay.
Yeah, it's really a great website.
Well, I was lucky enough when I was over there to run into a couple of Sweeneys who were probably related way back.
Yeah.
And a fellow named Sean Seamus, who knew a whole lot of the history of the particular lands and the family who owned the lands. And just that kind of connection with possibilities of people who knew, and being in the place where my ancestors were was a
Yes.
fabulous experience. I advise anyone to go
Yeah.
if they're trying to find Irish ancestors.
So this is the Ireland Reaching Out page. It's just irelandxo.com.
Okay.
They're really great. I mean, I've never used their, sort of service, but you can create an account, and they just have incredible information. They have these personal these resources that are really good. They have a message board, ancestral stories, and they have a lot. I mean, just clicking on Irish records here, they just do so much, and they explain it too. So you can go through, and here's like, I mean, I use this from to try to figure out our Griffith's evaluation, because they have such a great explanation of how to use it. So this is very important. So at any rate, it's Ireland XO. I'll put that in the chat.
Excellent.
And I would highly recommend that to anybody, even just starting out.
Oh, you're making me want to go back. Thanks for a great presentation.
That's a good thing. Any other questions? I'm sorry it was kind of brief, but it was like a fire hose trying to winnow out what to provide.
Lots of good information, Jerry. And if you, I don't know, post some sort of a list of those,
okay,
that would be wonderful.
I'll definitely do that for the ones I've found. And but has anybody else done research? I know they were in the list of questions. There were a couple that people mentioned. So I don't know, Mary, have you done research in the databases at all?
I haven't, because I knew my grandparents, and I've gone back to their family homes in Kerry. I haven't myself done research further back, although there is a family Facebook page, and different members of the family have done research. So at some point I'm going to tap in and see what they've done and how far back it goes. But I agree with Sharon, going back and being able to stand in the places where they lived and grew up is pretty phenomenal.
It's cool. I know. Yeah, I did that with my dad, who was born in southern Italy, and took him back, and we met all these relatives that I'd not known, and it was this great experience, because the town set up on a hill, and I had a Volkswagen van, because I brought my mother and my uncle and aunt and my wife, and we couldn't go into the town because the street was so narrow. So we stopped at that point, and we started walking into the town center, and people would come out on their rooftops and yell down, "Rocco, Bruno," and it's like they hadn't seen them in 50 years, and there's people that they had known when they were kids, So it was really great experience.
Yeah. Thank you both. It was great. Very
good.
Informative and helpful.
Well, was this your first time with us?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, do you want to be on the email list?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
You can, if we only send out an email once every 2 months, so it's not too onerous, and so we do different topics. So yeah, we'll put you on the list.
Let me mention, this is random, but I'm throwing it out there. One of the things that I think will be hardest to research, and I don't know if I dare even undertake it. This is in the United States. I have my grandmother had 2 sisters who were institutionalized in a psychiatric institution that's no longer functioning, but they disappeared, and they spent a good portion of their lives in this institution. And I have no idea, this was in Massachusetts, I have no idea how to dig into those records.
There actually, it's been covered in many of the genealogy journals. I'll find an article, I can send it to you.
Great, great.
Yeah. Many times they were, I mean, I actually did research someone as well, wasn't related to me, but this was in the 19th century. So found him in the census enumerations, because they enumerated people in institutions as well. So, but anyway, I'll find this article, because I've come across one or two about doing research
Okay.
for institutions.
Great, thank you.
One of the things we could use some help with is any suggestions that you might have for another meeting. We kind of pick up on things that we're already working on, but well, Jerry particularly is pretty good about finding other, doing other research.
We're now doing research on Manitoba, Canada. So.
That's what I mean. You have a lot of wide-ranging places that you do some searching on. I pretty much stick to New England, but but anyway, other topics or things somebody's working on.
Just email us at the that email address that you guys have, and we'll try to fit them in. I mean, we stopped doing the the in-person presentations, because we'd get 2 people and then 15 to 20 on Zoom. So
yeah.
we didn't know if it was worth it, but sometimes it's better to be obviously in person.
It's fun in person. We just didn't want to lose people that were not in the area.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So let's see. Well, it's about 12:30, and you want to talk just general? I mean, you could talk general genealogy too. Have people done DNA tests?
I did a DNA. I finally joined Ancestry, did a DNA test, and found out I wasn't all Irish. I quite.
That's disappointing.
What was your percentage?
It was about 60% Irish, but then there were English and Scots and Northern and Norwegians.
Yeah.
But
it's good to check back on those though, because like Ancestry is constantly changing as they refine their reference groups and so forth. At various times I had also Norwegian ancestry, and then it disappeared. And
really,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
They update their reference groups with the well, they're attempting to become more accurate with their estimates. Is what happens. But so if you haven't looked in a while, I don't know when they last did an update, but it does change.
Right.
So they're not exact percentages, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's what I imagine.
They're fluid.
Yeah, one thing you could do, Kim, and anybody else who's tested with one company, is you can download your raw DNA, and there are two other companies that offer free uploads to their service. Family Tree DNA. There's actually I think more. So you got Family Tree DNA and MyHeritage DNA, and you can get a free account and upload the DNA from Ancestry to those 2 sites, and you'll get different matches, and you'll get different ethnic compositions.
I was curious about that.
And there's a third one called GEDmatch, which is an open source DNA. So they don't do DNA tests, but they invite people to upload their DNA to their site. So you get them from all over, all the different testing companies.
Well, I was particularly interested in how the I don't know, they seem to break it down, maternal and paternal.
Yeah, Ancestry will do that. Yeah,
that was so. I don't know if other places break it down differently.
They have different way. I know Wayne has done some my hair. You know, Wayne did a kind of overview of these testing companies. That's on our YouTube page, I believe. So,
no, you did a good thing on it before.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious as to where I might have relatives now. And it was interesting. The Ancestry thing did a map that showed a fair number in Massachusetts, because they're on both sides of the family pretty far back. But there were also a scattering of them in Ireland and Scotland, which I mean, my ancestors came over, you know, in 1850 something, the ones that came from Ireland. So they weren't recent.
Have you tried contacting the matches that seem?
I haven't. I thought, I don't know about this. And they also gave percentages, which was interesting.
Right. Yeah, well, you can use those percentages to determine how closely you're related. I know they give you an estimate as well, but.
Well, I may try doing it with a couple of the other places, but.
Yeah, that's a good first step.
Yeah.
When you look at matches too, they will usually say whether they have a family tree on the website.
Yes.
So anybody that has a relatively extensive family, in other words, sometimes the family tree is only the person. Right. So that's not too helpful.
Right.
No.
But sometimes, you know, if you find somebody that obviously has done some genealogy and they've uploaded an extensive family tree, those can be good people to contact, because they'll probably respond.
Yeah.
Right.
Other people, if they got it as a gift at Christmas or something, and they just did it, looked at their ethnicity estimate and haven't looked at it since, you probably won't hear from them.
Right.
I did want to throw out though, there's one other website called Living DNA, and they're based in Great Britain. I'm not sure. They definitely have a lot of information on English ancestry, but it might also include Irish, because they're, you know, because of their location.
Right.
Do you know if
you can again do the same thing? Download your ancestry results and upload it to Living DNA.
Oh, you can. That's a good one. It's good to know.
Well, that's good info. Thank you.
Yeah. I had an experience just a couple of weeks ago where I was contacted by somebody on Ancestry, but not through a DNA match, through our genealogical trees.
Oh, yeah.
He was able to see our common ancestor just by the trees that we had up. So there was no DNA involved at all. Which is
that's cool.
usually the other way around, you know.
Yeah.
And it was he lives in Uruguay, so you know, it was part of the family going back that immigrated from Italy to Uruguay.
Wow.
Yeah, but we have, you know,
you got your next vacation planned, Jerry.
Well, we're actually going to Mallorca first, because my wife has a half first cousin in Spain, and that's where he lives. So we're probably going there.
Nice.
But it'll be on the bucket list for sure.
Right.
Well, thank you, Jerry, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
You got me started a couple of years ago on this, and
yeah,
I've actually made very good strides. And recently, I got a couple of notebooks from my brother, and his wife went through things from my mother's attic that went back several generations.
Yeah.
We now have notebooks, and reading over my mother's notes, and I don't know, there are copies of some wills and things. And so I'm trying to sort through that now and finding, it's interesting. I'm finding information on people that my grandmother mentioned to me when I was a little kid, and the names are sort of coming into focus and sort of sorting themselves out with my mother's information and with the information I'm getting on Ancestry. So it's curious. It's interesting.
Use both sources. Yeah. It's always good to reread these too, because you might have missed something when you read it the first time. You go back and say, "Oh my God, how did I miss that?" You know, that clue.
Right.
You know.
So thank you both.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll end the meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We'll have a video available at some point, and you'll get a link if you want to watch it again.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Have a good week, month.
You too.
Take care.
Take care.